Okay, hello. Just got off a client call and wanted to share some thoughts. One of the people I'm working with has got a tech company um, doing, you know, between 5 and 10 million in revenue, but looking at a pretty big expansion right now, and so we're preparing kind of the leadership outside of the management, outside of the organizational structure, but we're preparing into kind of like the big leadership change for the CEO. And so one of the things that's shifting in our discussions is, or more just expanding, is in and around developing leaders, and this particular person's perspective on developing leaders relative to the question of this bigger vision. So this is a company that is doing one thing in the tech space, fintech and cyberspace, and has the opportunity to expand into a few other kind of complementary areas through large investment. And so the question is like, how much of these like different ideas, because right now they're ideas, they're conversations with investors, they're strategy sessions, they're planning, they're ideas that are being kind of like molded and discussed. And the question is, how much of that is shareable, is worthy of sharing, is appropriate to share with different team members. And so, we're always coming up with new ideas. So whether this is like a giant pivot or a small, change in product development or a team change, the question is like, how much of, the CEOs and the visionary person in the organization, how much are they sharing? How much are they sharing with whom on the team? And it's bringing up questions around how vulnerable this person possibly could be, or how vulnerable can you be in terms of really articulating to the team where you're at, like in your process, like letting somebody in on like the ideation process. It's kind of vulnerable because there's less posturing. And so like I'm finding people that are more comfortable in the posturing of more so kind of a hierarchical nature, more so into like judging themselves for the process of ideation. I mean, it's a beautiful, messy, chaotic process. It's trial and error, and it's like, this feels good. Let's go down this. This logically makes sense. Let's go down this, and it's kind of this balance. And allowing your team in on this is such an awesome opportunity. I see a lot of people that are, and within myself, obviously too, that are more interested in kind of the centralization of ideation and the centralization of control. And that's really just like not going to work. It's not going to work in the long run, and really in the short run. And it's not, you're missing an opportunity. And so the question is in and around, is compartmentalization of the visioning, is that compassionate? And there's a case that it is. There's a case that it's a distraction. There's a case that with some people, them well enough, people on your team, that you've done the personality assessments, where their head's at, where their heart's at, where their intentions are, and this stuff is just like not interesting. But there are others where this is like fuel to the fire, to understand that they're working in this whatever company that they're working in, or working with you on whatever project they're working in, understanding where you perceive this to be going, even so far as like, you're not sure where it's going to go, but here's some ideas on some pivots, and here's the data that we have, here's the research that we've done, here's my intuition on it. It's very vulnerable, and it's just a really interesting question that's coming up for companies that are growing and like expanding, and like that before you're hitting that event horizon where you're going into this unknown. Like how much of that are you like really like getting excited to share with your team? So those are questions that we're having. I think the feeling right now is strategic sharing shouldn't be distracting to people, but it should be exciting. And doing kind of like the founder email update, the memo from the founder, what's going on this week, in the founder's journal, that sort of thing. Just kind of like being more approachable, getting people to see more of your process. It just builds so much more trust, so much more authentic trust if you can do that. And where you're personally finding kind of like resistance to this idea is like, what a great opportunity to look at that, because, it's just an opportunity for you to see where you're deficient in your flexibility, not deficient in terms of like negative or positive, but just deficient in terms of like you can't get your awareness there. And if you can't get your awareness somewhere, that's like not an amazing thing. And so that's kind of the question. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm trying to think, I'm looking at my notes from the meeting. Yeah, it's looking at what does leadership development mean as you're on the precipice of expansion, and how does communicating that vision pre-event horizon, pre-solidification of the ideation, how does that fit into your leadership development strategy for taking things off your plate and giving them to other people, from your perspective and from their perspective, stepping into more of things that they're really, really very excited to do and to think about and to be a part of and to like eat it and sleep it more so, because it's things that they are actually wanting to do within their, identification of self. And so, supporting that is it's an opportunity. I won't say it's a duty, but it's certainly an opportunity to think about decentralizing and opening yourself up a little bit more. So that's the question. I'm going to post this on LinkedIn as well. Hopefully this is exciting. Okay, thanks everybody.